All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest, and it is good to be back with you guys. Just kind of fill you in. I've been giving some updates on Twitter and in the YouTube comments, stuff like that. I actually just moved across the country. I went from Utah to Virginia. So, huge move, very exciting opportunity for my family and I, but definitely a crazy intense move that has drained my energy. But it's a very exciting time in my life, and I'm very happy to be out here. I just, even tonight, I'm probably running on fumes a little bit, but I really am excited to be talking with you guys and be here with you. So it should be a great time. We're going to be talking Utah versus Arizona State. Obviously, my office isn't fully set up yet, but it will be soon. And it's just kind of version one, if you will. But I'm excited to talk Utah football, guys. I should have a lot of insight for you. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about a lot. It seems like the good news about me delaying actually making the video is it does seem like we have news on whether or not Cam Rising's playing. So stick around and we'll talk about that a little more. Also, the show is brought to you by the 1012 Network. 1012 Network is sponsored by Charlie Hustle. Charlie Hustle is an awesome vintage clothing brand that really great looking stuff. Again, I'm moving, so I don't have their shirt on tonight, but really nice shirts, and I love wearing them out. They like a nice snug fit that doesn't feel too tight or too loose either. Really good stuff. It's vintage made fresh. It's very nice. 1012 Network. Use code 101215 at charliehustle.com, and they'll give you 15% off any non-sale items. Very good stuff. Again, make sure you guys check them out. And on that note, we are back in action, baby. We are going to dive in. We're going to talk about football. We're going to talk about Utes. We're going to have a great time tonight. So make sure you guys like the video. And as we go through the different topics, make sure you guys comment down below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We put out a ton of Utah Utes football content, and I would love for you to be along for the ride. So let's go ahead and dive in and talk Utah versus Arizona State. All right, guys. And the first thing we're going to have to just go ahead and address is that Cam Rising will be in the game. This is big. I mean, that's the report. It's a report that is saying Cam Rising will be in the game. Even with official report saying he'll be in, I'm still only about 80% there, right? Just knowing how weird it's been. There was a report last time right before the Oklahoma State game, I believe, that said Cam Rising was going to be the starter, but that was not the case. So there is a report. It does seem like Cam Rising will be the guy on Friday night when Utah plays Arizona State, but you can never be 100% confident with how, how secretive Utah can be about injury information. We will see, but I'm going to make all my assumptions around the idea that Cam Rising is starting because it does seem that there is a very high chance Cam Rising will be starting, and the reports say he will be. I'm going to go ahead and trust those. All right, now we are going to be looking at the PFF grades for both teams. Let's go ahead and dive in here. So, right out the gate, looking at quarterback for Utah. Now, I know we just talked about the fact that we're going to go ahead and base our ideas around Cam Rising being the starter, but I did want to just take a look at Isaac Wilson's grade. Obviously, there's been a lot of struggle at the quarterback position for Utah. A 52.4 grade for Isaac. That's pretty rough, right? And just to give you an idea of where Isaac's been playing and if Cam is in, how much of a boost that could really be. That could be a huge jump for Utah's quarterback play. Moving on to receiver, we definitely have a silver lining here, and that is going to be in Dorian Singer. If you guys haven't been paying attention in these games, right, the offense hasn't been insanely good or anything like that, But Dorian Singer has broken out with Isaac Wilson. I really think it's because Isaac Wilson is just, trying to get the ball to the best guys as much as he possibly can to keep himself out of hot water. And Dorian Singer is benefiting from that. Let me go ahead and pull up his stats on the year. Let me see. All right, Dorian Singer stats. Boom. Yeah, so he is at 359 receiving yards on 26 catches. So pretty awesome start to the season. We're still under 6 games. We're 5 games in, which means he's tracking for in the ballpark of 1,000 yards, right? More like 900 yards. I don't know the math off the top of my head, but definitely tracking well. And if we look at his actual game log, the past 2 games, it was 95 receiving yards and 155 receiving yards in the past 2 games. So basically, he got 2/3 of his yards in the past 2 games, which means like the rest of the season could project to be really, really good for this guy. I think we were all a little surprised he wasn't breaking out a little more in the first couple of games. And so it is really nice to see him kind of taking off like that. Okay, now moving on to running back. Mekhi Bernard, you can see the PFF grade is 77.4. He's kind of the guy, right? Mekhi Bernard, let's check out his stats on the year as well. Okay, Mekhi Bernard. Okay. Yeah, he's having a heck of a year. 82 carries for 547 yards, averaging 6.7 yards per carry. I mean, you can't ask much more from a guy than what we're seeing from Mekhi Bernard. Super, super impressive, and a guy that has really put this Utah team on his back to get this year started. Very, very impressive, Mekhi. Yeah. And in his career, he has 1,755 rushing yards. So this season alone, he's tracking to break his total career rushing yards, or to, double his total career rushing yards. Not double, match his total career rushing yards. So Mekhi Bernard's having a super special year. Moving on to tight ends. This has been a position group that has flashed a bit with Wilson, but also gone dead and lifeless for large parts of the games. You take a look here. Brant Keithy is 75.5 grade. Dallin Bentley and Mickey Suguturaga struggling a bit. But you take the snap count minimum off, and Carson Ryan's looking decent. Caleb Lohner obviously has become a very good red zone threat. So it's pretty good overall. Tight end room, not great considering how many reps Suguturaga and Bentley are getting with low grades. But Brant Keithy looks great, and Lohner and Ryan look very good as well. Moving on to the center position, let's see how this offensive line has been holding up. A 69.1 grade. That's a well above average to good grade. Very impressed there. Going over to the guards. Looking at the offensive guards, we got Tanoa Togiai at a 75.7, still killing it, the number 27 guard in the country, and Michael Mokofisi, struggling a little bit, slightly below average grade here, but not bad. I like that it's very good in pass blocking, where a lot of the rest of the offensive linemen are very good in run blocking. Moving on to offensive tackles. You take a look at the offensive tackles for Utah. All right. Okay. So Spencer Fano, even better than last time. I believe last time he was ranked 7th, and he's at an 86.7 PFF grade for the number, and he's rated as the number 6 offensive tackle in the country with a 90.4 run blocking grade and a 70.8 pass blocking grade. Super special season for Spencer Fano so far. I am very excited to see if he can hold that up. He is really showing out this year. Next, we got Caleb Lomu, 74.0 PFF grade, 73.2 run block, and 66.5 pass block. Very good year for him. First year starting, and he's playing left tackle, which means he's going against some great talent. Now, let's take a look at the defense for Arizona State. So looking at the defense for Arizona State. Oh, here we go. So we're going to start with corners. So at corner, of the guys that are getting a good amount of reps, you have one guy right here in Shamari Simmons. A lot of reps for him, 307, a 75.9 grade. Let me pull him up. Where's he playing those snaps, though? Are those the outside corner? So he's a slot corner. And the reason I was looking at that, guys, is because I wondered that. Because sometimes slot corners can grade out really well. So he's their slot. They're really good guys, their slot. And a lot of that is run defense, right? So he's getting dirty in the box, making tackles, making plays there. But let's take a look at their outside corners. Now, Javon Robinson, this guy is a solid corner, right? That's not a bad grade. A 63.9 is not bad. And he's out playing wide corner. But that's also not a great corner. Like you put that guy up against Dorian Singer, I put my money on Dorian Singer big time. And then we got this guy, Keith Abney. I'm going to go ahead and take a guess that's their other outside corner. Yep, it is. And this guy is going to be going against like a Money Parks or whoever else is out there, right? And he's grading out at a 56.1. And both of those corners we just talked about are actually worse in coverage than they are in run defense. Abney significantly worse in coverage than in run defense. So with Cam being in, our receivers against this group of corners actually could be a pretty big advantage. I'm excited to kind of see how that plays out. Let's take a look at the safeties for Arizona State next. That'll be a good group as well to take a look at. All right. Okay, safeties for Arizona. Oh, this is for Utah. Obviously, great safeties. A little spoiler alert there. All right, Arizona State. So these are two very good safeties as well. So this guy's, borderline elite. Xavier Alford, really good in coverage. And then Miles Rouser, I like this a lot for Arizona State. He's just basically good all across the board with a good PFF grade. I mean, that's a pretty good grade right there, 71.4 and no weaknesses. So two good safeties and both guys that especially Rouser can come in and run defend really well, whereas Xavier Alford can kind of go over the top and be a great coverage safety. So that definitely throws some stuff in the mix. We're going to want to take advantage of those outside corners and try to steer clear of Alford. But the other Rouser was a good safety too. So moving on to the linebackers for Arizona State. These first two guys are very good run coverage guys. One thing that's peculiar right out the gate is none of these guys have a ton of snaps. I wonder what's going on there. Yeah, so they must not run a ton of linebackers very often, or are they shifting them out a lot? Okay, no, I mean they're just not giving the linebackers a ton of snaps. So is what it is there. But this guy seems above average to good. Elliott. This guy's average with really good run defense. Where I see the matchup could be if these guys get matched up on Brant Keithy. None of them are great in coverage. And so we could take advantage of that. Now let's take a look at their defensive line. Defensive line for Arizona State. Okay. Where we go? Okay. Defensive line for Arizona State. This is the interior defensive line. So I like the look of this, guys. Not insane pass rushers and not great offensive linemen overall. They're both well below average in their PFF grade. And this guy's average for run defense, and this guy's below average for run defense. So that could be an opportunity for us where we'll go over like the averages for yards allowed and yards for each offense. But just looking at that, I do see an opportunity for us to go again. We have one very good guard and another, slightly below average grading guard in Mokofisi right now. But Kump is good too, our center. So being able to run up the middle could be a real option for us. Edge rushers. Okay, this is a good group, right? These guys are getting a decent amount of snaps. The main guys are these second two, Smith and O'Neal at a 68.8 and a 64.2. But Watley is a 74.3, and he's getting a decent amount of snaps. Seems like he might be the pass rush kind of guy. Yeah, you look here, he's got 89 pass rush snaps. So good group of edge defenders. No getting around that. But basically their best guy is equal to Caleb Lomu, where these other guys are not as good as Caleb Lomu, and none of them are in the vicinity of a guy the talent level of Spencer Fano grading wise right now. So that is Utah's offense against Arizona State's defense. All right, guys. And next, we are going to be looking at Utah's defense against Arizona State's offense. And that is going to start with the edge rushers for Utah. Van Fillinger is still grading out very well at an above average grade of 68.7 for Utah. And I love to see that pass rush grade holding up, right? A 71.3, it's a good pass rush grade, 65.7, solid run defense grade. And the reason I bring that up is, with the edge defender, you want a good pass rush grade. I don't like where Logan Fano is grading out right now. And I think that's playing out in the eye test. I'm not watching him snap in and snap out, but I am just in passing, just noticing him uh, not wow me much, not seeing him pop on the screen a lot. That's kind of what you're looking for with defense is guys that kind of you're not looking for them. They make themselves known to you, if that makes sense. And I'm not seeing that. So we do need some edge defenders to step up. I'm not sure if Connor O'Toole is going to be back in this game. If anyone has any info on that, please post it in the comments below. Now moving on to the interior defensive line for Utah, who had been having a good season up until this last game. And look, they do continue to have a good season. So Junior Tafuna, 74.7 PFF grade. That's by far his best PFF grade. Just so you guys know, I'll pull it up right here. He has not graded out well according to PFF. You see that? Like only one grade of the 3 years where he got a good amount, like 800 plus snaps, or not 800 plus snaps, but a lot of snaps every year. And only 1 year was above a 60, and it was a 61.4. And he's at a 74.7 this year. I'm very impressed with Junior Tafuna. Also, Keanu Tanuvasa, a 69 grade, 73 run defense. Not looking great pass rush, but still very, above average to good grade. Junior Tafuna's killing it. See anyone else getting a good amount of snaps here? 73 snaps for Peppa, slightly below average to average grade. You don't love that. Uh, but interior defensive line play looks great for Utah. I mean, Junior Tafuna and Keanu Tanavasa really holding it down. That's good to see. All right, moving over to the linebackers. This is a group that has struggled with injuries severely this year. This was looked at to be one of the strongest groups on the team this year, but after a lot of rough injuries, see, Lander Barton is the only guy that we thought would be the starter in spring ball that is still actually starting in this linebacker room for Utah. We could see Karine Reed back this week. I don't know the details on that. If anyone has it, drop it in the comments below. Sione Fotu, though, struggling quite a bit. Lander Barton's above average in his grade. Very good run defense grade. Solid coverage grade. Just not a very good pass rush grade. But again, that's only on 48 pass rush snaps. Sione Fotu struggling, across the board here. Not a great look, and the run defense grade is very bad, and that is playing out in the eye test. I hate to say it, but it is the truth. He needs to step up, and if he wants to continue being a starting linebacker for this team, he really needs to, make his name known and solidify his ownership of that position. So I hope he does that. Moving on to safety. Safeties this year has been a good room, especially with Tao Johnson. He's had very good grades this year, and you can see it right here. 50th safety in college football right now, according to PFF. 78.4 PFF grade. That's extremely good. Run defense grade, 82.1. That's elite. Coverage, 74.9. That's very good. Jonathan Hall, right? He's out there playing that safety linebackerish role. Little below average grade. Alakai Gilman, also a little below average, but we'll kind of see how those two do, right? Those two seem to be the guys getting the other snaps, so we'll see how that goes. But we do have one very good safety in Tao Johnson, and he really has been a star this year. Moving over to cornerback, I am actually excited to take a look at these guys and see how they're doing. Okay, Smith Snowden continues to do very well, a 70.6 grade, 77.8 run defense, 68.4 coverage. Elijah Davis, very well, also 68.3 grade, 79.4 run defense, 65.5 coverage. But he has seen his snaps limited since Cameron Calhoun came in. Speaking of Cameron Calhoun, elite grade, a 78.1, 78.3 coverage, 67.3. Samaya Vaughn has more snaps than anyone else. Average grade 64.5, 68.3 run defense, 63.6 coverage. Don't forget, though, a lot of time he's going against the other team's best receiver. But Vaughn and Calhoun out wide with a mix of Smith, Snowden at slot, and a bunch of good, talented guys that could rotate in. CJ Blocker, Elijah Davis has already proven this year that he can be a good corner. We got a great group of guys here that can go in if they need to. So corner is not a position I am very concerned about. Now let's go ahead and move over to Arizona State. Arizona State here, taking a look. We're moving over to their offense. So Arizona State's offense, Sam Levitt. Now this is a grade I did not expect to be this high. Now, and I do want to comment on this as I've done it many times. This is the position where I tend to disagree the most with PFF. Like this, I've seen so many times where quarterbacks with really good numbers are not graded well according to PFF, and times where quarterbacks with not impressive numbers are graded very well according to PFF. So it can be confusing. I would just say that he's having a good year, right? Overall, right? A lot of rushing stats for this guy. I'll actually pull it up, his numbers, because the passing numbers aren't super impressive, right? But the rushing numbers are quite good. Let's see. So passing on the year, he's got 1,151 yards. That's not terrible, right? Through 5 games, that's a little over 200 yards a game. Um, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So good TD to INT ratio. He's taken 7 sacks in the year, so that's more than 1 sack a game. Very good rating here, 135.2. Rushing stats, 257 rushing yards on the season, so very good with his legs, over 50 yards a game with his legs so far in the season. So I don't agree completely with such a high grade, but he has been good. I'll take the L here. I had him ranked as my 15th quarterback, I believe, heading into the season. And it wasn't that I thought he sucked. It's just you hadn't seen much from him, right? He hadn't gotten a chance to really be a starter anywhere. So you really didn't know what you were going to see from him. So now let's take a look at the wide receivers for Arizona State. Arizona State, okay, that's a good sign for us. None of these receivers are all that good, right? This guy's below average. This guy's kind of bad. This guy's awful. So that's a good sign. And maybe that's why they're grading out the quarterback better, because he's not getting a lot of help from his receivers. But the reason I say that's good for us is we're going to talk about it. This team can run the ball very well. They run the ball. They're very physical. They have a good running back who we're about to talk about. And if our corners don't have to be super concerned with their receivers down in and down out, that gives us a little more room to creep up, right? Or at least leave the corners on them, have the safeties creep up and try to make plays. So that could be a big opportunity for us there, where we clearly have an advantage in our corners versus their wide receivers. Okay. Now moving on to Arizona State's running backs. Is going to start with this guy, right? Cam Scatterbo. 83.1 PFF grade. He's a stud. He's a beast, right? He is a big bruiser, just a thick white dude, just Peyton Hillis, Jacob Hester, Owen Schroyer type of vibes, right? Just a big physical guy that just lights you up if you try to make contact with him. So he's going to be a big one for us, guys, making sure we tackle this guy. The trick with him is you're not going to just run this guy over. Like, you don't just hit him. You have to wrap him up and wait for someone else to come help you, right? Obviously, if you do wrap him up and he goes down, that's great, but don't just expect him to, right? Hold on for dear life, drive your feet, and wait till you're back. The cavalry arrives. All right, now let's go ahead and check out Arizona State's tight ends. Okay, tight ends for Arizona State. No one really impressive here. Everyone's below average to bad. It's a good sign for Utah. Like to see it, right? And especially for a team that's going to run, probably some heavy sets to try to try to push us at the line. I think that's a really good sign for us that their tight ends and their receivers are not a concern. Now, I'm not saying like you're going to see, we're going to break down the stats and I've done some projecting already. I'm going to do like the deep dive with you guys live, but I've already looked at the stats a bit, and there's going to be some numbers in their favor. This is not a bad team, and I'm sure you guys are starting to realize that as we go through these PFF grades. But I do think, the formula, we're about to look at their offensive line, but the formula is clear on how you beat these guys, right? Bad receivers, bad tight ends. The quarterback, say what you will about that grade, but then 200 pass yards a game, he's not exactly lighting it up, right? I'm not saying he's terrible, but he's not great. And the key is going to be stop the run. Find a way to shut down this running game, because if you can, they can't control the ball, they can't control the clock, and you can slow them down a ton. And you put the pressure on Sam Levitt, right? You get up 1 to 2 touchdowns, and you force this kid that's throwing 200 pass yards a game on the back of a very strong run game. You force him to beat you. What does he do? How does that actually look, right? So Arizona State center, well below average, 61.3 grade, and he's more of a pass blocker, which elite pass blocking, but they're really more of a run blocking or a running team. So I don't know how much that really helps them. All right, now moving on to their guards. So for Arizona State, the guards, again, another elite pass blocker with above average to good run blocking. And their other guard that has a lot of snaps, this guy with the 229, 61.1 grade, below average to bad run blocking and average pass blocking. So far, I like how we're looking against this offensive line. So we'll see. Okay, Arizona State. Okay, and then their tackles. This guy, Max Iankor, however you say that, is going to be a good pass blocker, good run blocker. Seems like a very good player. But this guy, Joshua Atkins, below average overall grade at a 62.7. Run blocking struggles, 57.9. So, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it here in a bit. But I liked a lot of what I saw in favor of Utah in these grades, especially with their offense against our defense. I really liked what I saw. So we'll talk about it more later. Next, we'll go ahead and move on to we'll move on to actually breaking down the team stats heading into this game. All right, guys, and now we are going to be taking a look at the stats heading into this game for Arizona State and Utah. So Arizona State has the 59th strength of schedule so far this season, and Utah has the 63rd strength of schedule so far this season. So neither team has played a particularly tough schedule. Both teams have, I wouldn't say they've been playing cupcakes, especially like for Utah. I don't think they've just played people that suck, but neither team has played like really been tested against good teams. And when they're that close, 59 and 63, if you guys want, you could favor, half a point. I don't know. It's like some favoritism towards Arizona State there, but that is really, really close. And I'm not going to factor it in very much. It's all pretty much right down the middle there. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers here. So pass yards per game, Arizona State has been averaging 205.4 pass yards per game. Utah's pass yards per game allowed. And you guys are going to see as we go through these, a lot of these numbers are so freaking similar. Utah's pass yards per game allowed, 198.5. So basically, Utah allows a little less than what Arizona State averages. You can kind of look at all the numbers right here and take a look if you want. This is, rush yards per game, pass yards per game allowed, rush yards per game allowed, yards per game allowed, points per game allowed. So I'm going to leave these on the screen for a second if you guys want to pause and take a look for yourself. But what I'm going to look at are these numbers here. So points per game allowed and points per game for both teams. And on a raw score prediction, you can see it down at the bottom of the screen. This would have Arizona State scoring 26 points and Utah scoring 24 points. Now, I think an adjustment has to be made. Arizona State has a solid home crowd. They really do. Arizona State, when they're good, which they are pretty decent right now, and we're going to get tested, they're going to show up. I don't think this is going to be a low attendance game. I think this new former Pac-12 rivalry is a real thing, and when you play other teams that used to be in the Pac-12, their fan bases are going to come out, just like Utah is going to come out and want that win, right? We're all wanting those wins. So I think that's going to be a factor, and I'm actually going to give them, a little 3-point swing there. I'm actually going to go for a 4-point swing here when I factor in the slightly better strength of schedule. But just in general, like a strong home field advantage. It's also, I heard it's going to be like 97 degrees when Utah heads to Arizona State. So that's going to be hot, right? But here's the other factor. All these numbers are based around Isaac Wilson being the starter almost exclusively at this point in the season. Now, I don't think Cam's going to come out on fire and be a world-changing presence right out the gate, but I do think he's going to be a very strong presence and really bring a lot to this offense. But I think even with Cam, there's a lot to consider. I think when you factor in Cam, you factor in the Arizona home field, and I'm going to give you guys my actual prediction. This is just kind of where this data would lead me once you factor in the home field and once you factor in Cam, is like a Utah 32, Arizona State 30. Now, that's not my prediction. I just going off these numbers, and you guys could check them out and, go out and, do what you want with them. I put them together for you so you have them. But that's where it would lead you. And in a second here, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my prediction. But that's, you guys can throw your thoughts in the comment. That's kind of what the scores would tell us, just breaking down the data and then factoring for home field and factoring Cam in. All right, guys, and now let's go ahead and give an actual prediction. Before I give my prediction, I would love for you guys to comment your prediction right now and kind of give the reasons why, right? And kind of where you're thinking this game goes after looking at a lot of that stuff. So this is where my mind is right now. I really was, especially on the PFF grade side of things, I thought Utah had some serious advantages. I feel strongly about that. I think our front seven against their, trenches, our defensive front seven against their offensive line and tight ends, we have a pretty good advantage there. Especially our interior defensive line against their interior defensive line. I don't think they're going to be running up the middle a lot. I think they're going to really struggle if that's their game plan. And I think on the outside, our edge rushers can hold their own, and especially if Karine Reed is back, they're going to have a hard time. But more than that is, we talked about it while we were breaking down the PFF grades, is our corners against their wide receivers was the biggest outlier. I don't know if you guys felt this way, but because don't forget, their one really good corner was a slot corner. Sorry, I don't know why I went there, but our corners looked way better than their wide receivers. And that means we can leave our corners on islands one-on-one against these receivers and have some faith that most of the time that matchup's going to be in our favor. And what that means is Tao Johnson can come up in the box and try to help the run. And it's it's a pretty big deal. And the reason I bring it up is if they want to go toe to toe, blow for blow, and try to just give Scatabo carry after carry, we're gonna load up and we're gonna come at you guys and we're gonna test you and see if you're legit, because we are, right? Say what you will about how Utah started, but a lot of the time the numbers don't tell the whole story. And let's be real, the defense has been on the field a lot for Utah, and it drains this defense. Guys, the defense doesn't get stronger throughout the game. The defense gets weaker. That's why if you notice, like being a Utah fan, a great example of this is almost every team we play as we start to get into like that mid third quarter. We'll pound the rock, pound the rock, pound the rock. And depending on the game, we have some success, right? But as you get in that mid third quarter, if you've committed to it throughout the game, you start to see those big runs because the defense starts missing tackles. Their D line starts getting moved around because it exhausts you. It's just a fight. It's like the offensive line, defensive line are in a fight. The linebackers, the tight ends are in a fight. The whoever's trying to tackle the running back, it's a fight, and it wears people down. And that's what's been happening to our defense. Like, when have you seen a Utah defense get run on the way we have? And that's what I'm talking about, where a lot of our numbers are probably better than they seem just because our offense hasn't really been holding their end of the bargain. Let's be honest. And a lot of that's been in the red zone. And when I factor that in, I greatly, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions, but I do greatly favor Utah's defense over this Arizona State offense. And I think that's very fair to say. And then let's flip the script, right? Our offense versus their defense. And they had a great safety. They had some solid players on this team. On their defense, they didn't suck, right? They definitely didn't. But I mean, come on. I liked our Dorian Singer's coming on. Brant Keithy, who's going to cover him? They have a really good safety. They have some good players in their team, but I feel good. I didn't feel any matchups that we couldn't strongly handle. Our offensive line still playing really well, is still going to push them around. And I'm telling you guys, when they see Zach Wilson, this is such an unspoken factor of this season so far. It's just like when they saw Bryson Barnes in the backfield or Nate Johnson or, whoever, or what was his name? Charlie Brewer, right? It's just they can load up the box and dare you to throw on them. And then if you do try to run, there's two free rushers and your running back's getting tackled at the line or in the backfield. And I really feel good about Utah in this game. And so, like I said, the data showed 32-30. If you guys agree with how I pulled the data and how I adjusted. My prediction is different. If Cam's in, I see us winning this game 34-21. I actually see a very strong win. And I even think in that 34-21 that I just gave, I think some of those points could be like a garbage time points. I think you're not going to be able to load the box once Cam's in, and he is going to make you pay if you do, bro. And basically what people have been seeing this year is Utah's offense with a subpar quarterback. And it's not that Isaac Wilson sucks. He doesn't suck. He's good, and he's not good right now. He's not good, right? He's doing some stuff, and he's getting some drives going, but he is really struggling in the red zone. He is shutting down in the red zone, and that's a freshman quality, right? We're going to have one of the best quarterbacks in college football leading the charge, along with everything else we've been doing so far this year. It's going to be a big time difference maker, guys. So that's kind of where we are. I see a very dominant win for Utah. Please smash the like button. That'll help get the video out to more Utah fans. And if you haven't already, comment down below your thoughts, your prediction of the game. I do want to hear it. And subscribe to the channel. We put out a ton of Utah youth football content. I'm glad to be back here making another video. Sorry it took so long, and there should be no other weird gaps throughout the rest of the year. I'm excited to keep bringing you guys content. Yeah, and just a reminder, check out the 1012 network. They're that's where this show is a part of, and then also the Charlie Hustle Vintage Made Fresh. Charlie Hustle, use code 101215 at checkout for 15% off any non-sale items. I am out of here, guys. It should be a great game Friday, and go Utes.